This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Kevin Barry. Finally, it's been a while, Kev. How are you keeping?
Rob, I'm keeping very well, my friend, and it's good to see you looking so well. The last time I saw you, your hair was all over the place. You hadn't had a shave. You still haven't had a shave, but at least you're groomed now. You're looking far more presentable.
Thanks very much, man. I'm trying to take a little bit of grooming tips from you, so thank you very much for all of those.
Sure.
How have you been? It's been a few months since I've spoken to you. What have you been up to?
Yeah, I had Guio Vieira, my Italian heavyweight here in camp. When the world went into shutdown, he was stuck here in Vegas, and so we kept training. He was able to get a fight at the first televised boxing show on June the 9th at the MGM. He had a nice first round knockout. We then lined him up to fight again at the beginning of August, it was actually at the end of July, and we went into the bubble. We got tested on the Wednesday, we got tested on the Sunday, we were fighting on the Tuesday, and we woke up Monday morning and the guy we were fighting had tested positive. So that was very, very disappointing for Guido. We've now done, out of our last 3 training camps, we've managed to get 1 fight. So he went back to Italy. He hadn't seen his family since Christmas. And he is due back here tomorrow. And we are scheduled to fight on October 3, once again in the bubble at the MGM.
Just talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, obviously we saw Guido return in emphatic fashion in the first show after the lockdown. How disappointing was it for him? Because obviously I'd spoken to Guido at the very start of the year, and as you say, he's had 3 training camps with only 1 fight now. Not ideal at the start of your career as Guido is.
Look, I tell you what, a lot of other fighters would have really fallen apart. And don't get me wrong, Guido was very disappointed. But he also, he has, for a young man who's just turned 26, he has a high degree of maturity. And he realizes that, look, it wasn't an injury or an illness. It was the fact that his opponent had tested positive for COVID. So, he accepted it. He took it in his stride. And I just said to him, look, take a couple of weeks off when you go back home, get back on your strength program. And he is fizzing at the bit to step back into the ring on October 3. So, as I mentioned to you before, he arrives back with us tomorrow. We'll have, from when he gets back, we'll have 5 weeks, a 5-week camp here in Vegas. He's been training, he's been sparring. We've got sparring arranged now for him. So all the signs look good. Now, look, this is a good fight for him too, this next fight. He's fighting the Irish champion, Niall Kennedy, who's 13-1. So look, we're taking little step ups all the time, but even though we've only had that 1 round knockout in 3 training camps this year, he's made huge strides in the gym, and as his overall skill set is developing very well. His strength levels are developing, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing. All the signs are there for once we get this disastrous 2020 behind us, all the signs are good for him moving forward next year and making a real name for himself in the heavyweight division.
Before we come on to, obviously, your other heavyweight, Joseph Parker, let's talk about Umar Salomon, light heavyweight contender that you've got. It seems like forever ago that we first spoke about the WBO box-off for the light heavyweight title. That has since started, of course, last week, Joe Smith versus Alida Alvarez. What can you tell us about Umar Salomon versus Max Vlasov?
Well, firstly, the first semi-final last week was a tremendous performance by Joe Smith, and for either of the other 2 fighters, my fighter Umar Salomon and Maxim Vlasov, both of them, whoever wins that fight is going to have a very hard fight against Joe Smith. But look, Umar hasn't fought this year. Vlasov and his team decided that, because the borders were closed in Russia for both guys, couldn't get back to the US to have that other semi-final elimination fight. Vlasov's team decided they would fight a 10-round exhibition with professional gloves, no head guard, which was a very smart move. So he's obviously in very good shape. Salomov's been training in Kiev instead of his home country of Chechnya. He's been doing a diverse range of training from soccer to running hills to hiking to his strength work, his boxing training. So but he's been keeping himself fit. Both guys have signed with top rank. Both guys understand the significance of this elimination fight for someone like Vlasov, who has fought for the world title at cruiserweight. He's fought for the world title at super middleweight, and now he's fighting in this elimination fight at light heavyweight. An experienced guy, 45-3. It's going to be it's a 50-50 fight. And the scary thing for me is that, being Umar's trainer and his co-manager, the fact that we were not going to be able to stage this elimination fight in the US this year, there is an opening presented itself for the two of them to fight possibly in Russia in some time towards the end of October. The only problem for me is Salomov can't get into the US to train with me, and I can't get to Russia to train him. So the predicament that we're in there is that if that fight does take place in October, I won't be in this corner, and that concerns me a little.
Yeah, naturally. Just expand on that a little bit. What's going to be the setup? What's going to happen if that's the case that you can't train Umar?
Well, he's training in Kiev at the moment with another trainer. He seems to be going well there. Obviously, it's not ideal, but it's also not ideal to sit the whole of 2020 out and not to fight. And both fighters, Umar Salomon and Maxim Vlasov, they both fancy themselves to beat each other, which makes this an even more appealing fight. Umar at the age of 26, a record of 25-1 with 19 KOs. He's a very good fighter, an exciting young fighter, very tall for a light heavyweight, 6'3.5". A lot of power. He believes that his best fights are still in front of him. Vlasov, as I mentioned before, has, at the age of 33, has fought for the world title at cruiserweight, at super middleweight, and now he's at light heavyweight. So he's an experienced guy that's campaigned at different weight divisions. So he's got his team with him, the same team that he's always had. So that I see as being an advantage to him.
Yeah, I think it seemingly, you make a good point that it's not ideal, but neither is sitting out all of 2020. So we'll wait to see how that plays out. Hopefully it's somewhat in your favour at least. Moving on, Joseph Parker, in and amongst all of his viral videos, he does do a little bit of fighting. So,
he does. He's a part-time boxer now.
Yeah.
Full-time actor, part-time boxer.
He's doing very well. Talk to us about Junior Farr. Now, we've seen all of the talks over the last 2 or 3 weeks. It seems to be picking up a lot of pace. What's the latest on Joseph Parker versus Junior Farr?
Look, the fight has had a big build-up in the media. The negotiations have been ongoing now for several weeks, if not the last 2 months. And it's a fight that, in New Zealand, it's a fight that's really been built up over the last couple of years. Junior, with an undefeated record of 19-0, has moved his way up the heavyweight ranks. He's been in camp with Wilder, which has given him a lot of confidence and actually developed his game. He hasn't had the same sort of opportunities and challenges that Joseph Parker has had. The big fights, they haven't been there. But this is his opportunity. He's now ranked 6th in the world with the WBO. Joe currently sits there at number 2. So for the rankings in the WBO version of the heavyweight division, this is a very important fight, and a significant fight, and a fight that, for the winner, it will resurrect 2020 and put them in a terrific position coming into 2021. Joe's been training for the last, practically ever since his fight against Winters at the end of February. He took a month off, and then for the last 4 months, he's been involved in not only doing videos, but a lot of training. In fact, he'll FaceTime me 3 or 4 times a week from the gym, doing a lot of strength work. He loves taking his shirt off and showing me, "Hey, coach, I'm in good shape. Hey, let's get a fight." We wanted to be able to. One thing that Joe has really learned at this stage of his career is you've got to stay in shape all the time, and you've got to be prepared that if another big fight falls over, that you're not that far away from being in shape and being able to step in. And when I say big fights, for instance, let's talk about the Povetkin Whyte fight last weekend, where, leading into that, if there was an injury, I said to Joe, we want to be that guy that can, at this particular time, step in on 3 or 4 weeks' notice and be in shape and in that sort of condition where 3 or 4 weeks will have us at 100%. So, he has stayed in shape. He's really looking forward to fighting. It's a big fight in New Zealand, Joseph Parker and Junior Farr, on a number of fronts. Joe's Samoan, Junior Farr's Tongan. There's, a fierce rivalry between the Samoans and the Tongans. As amateurs, they boxed each other 4 times for 2 wins each. Junior Farr was the person responsible for Joe not qualifying for the Olympics by beating him in the trials. So, there's the fact that Farr's undefeated. Joe has had, probably more success than any other New Zealand heavyweight, winning the world title, defending it twice, being in one of the biggest fights in the world in 2017, 18 against Joshua. So Joe's had the experience. He's made the name. The pressure is on Joseph Parker in this fight. He's the guy that has the higher ranking. He is the guy who's been in the big fights. And it's an opportunity for Junior Farr to step up and say, I've waited a long time. I've been in the ring with you 4 times as an amateur. Now it's my turn to get into the ring with you as a pro. And let's see who the better man is. It's a great fight for New Zealand.
It's kind of what I was just about to say, really, about the pressure being on Joseph Parker. Obviously, as you mentioned, he's already been a world champion. He's number 2 with the WBO. From speaking to Eddie Hearn and kind of reading between the lines of my conversations with Alex Krasiuk and Alexander Usyk, it looks as though the WBO title may well become vacant in some stage in the next 12 months. So a really, really important fight and a real banana skin potentially for Joseph Parker.
Oh, look, the implications for the winner of this fight are huge. The winner's going to be in a tremendous position. And what you just said, I'm hearing the same things, that possibly could become vacant. And we don't really know. The heavyweight landscape is so, oh my God, it is so forever changing, and that fight last weekend just shows how fast it can change, when we've got Mr. Whyte sitting there for the last 1,000 days, waiting to fight for the WBC title and then gets himself put to sleep. That's why it's so important for Joshua and Fury in these next fights, for those 2 guys, that, that they don't take their eye off the prize, that they both get the jobs done, so that those 2 guys can possibly, get into the ring next summer.
You mentioned the fight last weekend, Dillian Whyte versus Alexander Povetkin. Obviously, Dillian Whyte, somebody that you know very well from Joseph Parker's fight with Dillian Whyte. Shocking 5th round KO from Alexander Povetkin. Talk to me about it.
No, look, it really was. Looking at the 3rd and 4th rounds, that's how I thought the fight would go. I think I remember saying to you a couple of months ago when Dillian was changing trainers, that's one thing that was a concern at the time. You don't ever break a winning team. And, Mark Tibbs had obviously done a good job with him, getting him through those some really big fights and getting him through when he's been on the canvas a few times. And then you turn around and you put a whole new, you put a whole new training team, an inexperienced training team in your corner. It puts huge pressure, not just physically, but it puts a lot of pressure mentally on the fighter. And obviously bringing Dave Caldwell in, 3 days out was a smart thing because it gave him a little bit more experience in the corner. But when you're making changes like that, things have a funny way of happening, and we've seen that. But look, coming into the fight, I picked Dillian to win. I thought he would win comfortably. I thought that at the age of 40, Povetkin has shown signs of slowing down. He doesn't pull the trigger as fast as he used to. We know he still has, a good left hook, and he proved he had a terrific left uppercut. But I still doubted that he'd be able to get the job done. And like we've seen Whyte be so resilient over the years, a guy that can take a punch, he can get dropped on his backside and get back up and survive. But that left uppercut in round 5 was probably the knockout of the year so far. The big concern that as a trainer that I have with what I'm hearing now, and Eddie saying and Whyte saying we want that immediate rematch, we want to get him back into the ring. Eddie saying the end of November. I as a coach, if that happened to one of my fighters, that wasn't just I got dropped with a punch and staggered to my feet. That was I was put to sleep. You would want to be out of the gym for 6 months. You wouldn't want to spar for 9 months. So the fact that he is so keen, we know he was winning the fight. He was boxing nice. But the fact that he is so keen and anxious to get back into the ring, I would really, really question that, and I think it's a very dangerous thing, and a good thing for Povetkin and a bad thing for Dillian Whyte.
Yeah, let's just touch upon that. As I said, as you just mentioned, I spoke to Eddie the other day, and Eddie said to me about the end of November. You've mentioned Dillian Whyte in not only his fight with Joseph Parker, but of course the 2 fights with Derek Chisora, both tough fights. The Oscar Rivas fight was a tough fight. Was even hurt in instances against Marius Vac out in Saudi Arabia.
He was.
Are we starting to see? I mean, obviously the punch that knocked him out would have knocked out a horse, But are we starting to see potentially what's the word I'm looking for here?
Look, I don't think it was the hugest punch in the world, Rob. I think what it is, it just goes to show. It's the punch that you don't see that does the real damage. And he was covering for the hook. He'd been hit with the hook to the head. He'd been hit with the hook to the body. Povetkin being in a dazed state in that 4th round, to come out and to throw a punch like that when Whyte was looking for the hook to the head or the hook to the body, you have to give him huge props for that. Okay, I know a lot of people have said, look, hey, it was a lucky punch. It was just a fluke. But the thing is, you make your own luck. He threw that uppercut. We're talking about a guy who loves to throw the left hook. He loves to throw the left hook to the head. He loves to throw the left hook to the body. But he didn't. He had thrown it for 4 rounds, and then he threw the left uppercut and it went right inside the glove. You have to give him the respect and the credit for choosing that punch selection.
Now, you've spoken in the past about obviously your desire from a coach's perspective to get that rematch in against Dillian Whyte. Now that we've seen that this past weekend, does that only kind of strengthen your position on that, the fact that you want that rematch in the future?
Well, I don't think Dillian's ever been the same since the Joseph Parker fight. And, you know, you look at the punch in the 12th round where, you know, he was gone the 11th and 12th rounds, but the 12th round he was down. The 11th round he was holding on. We've seen the signs since then. You know, the two hard Chisora fights, you know, the Oscar Rivas fight, as you mentioned, the Wok fight that was supposed to be a walk in the park. He had troubles in that fight. And now being put to sleep as bad as he did, you know, the signs are definitely there. That chin that, you know, had stood up to a lot of punishment over the years is not that strong anymore. And that would be a huge concern for me and a huge mental obstacle for Dillian Whyte moving forward.
Do you think the fact that they're looking to push that rematch? I mean, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago about the fact that the heavyweight division can move so quick. There's so much money at stake in that division. Do you think that that's going to be the essentially the leading factor in trying to get that quick turnaround?
No, look, obviously it's driven by the money, and we all know that knockout loss has deprived Dillian of a multi-million-dollar payday. Now, when you look at, you know, the position he was in, you know, if Fury had gets the job done, which we all think he will against Wilder in fight 3, a Fury Whyte fight, you know, that would be a huge payday for Dillian Whyte. And that is, you know, that's off the table now. That's right off the table at the moment. So, and we've seen that over the years, time and time again, when a fighter has been in a position to have a huge payday in various divisions, and only to, you know, suffer a bad defeat or a knockout by taking the wrong fight at the wrong time. And there were, you know, a lot of people said, hey, you've beaten Parker, you've beaten Rivas, you've got 2 wins against Chisora. You know, mate, just sit there and tread water. You're in a great position. Fight a B- fighter or fight a C fighter. No one's going to say anything to you for that. But, you know, he decided, you know, to roll the dice. And look, he was doing a good job. There was no doubt about that. He was winning the fight comfortably. I thought his hands were a lot higher than they'd been in other fights. I thought his use of the jab was really, really good. But, you know, having him hurt as badly as he did in the 4th round, I think there should have been a little bit of caution given to him in rounds 5, because, you know, as we saw, when a fighter is hurt, they become very, very dangerous and very, very desperate. And it doesn't; those measures don't always come off, but in this case they did. And I think you know, Whyte would have been a little bit better served if he'd been patient for the first minute and really lined him up. But I think in his mind he thought he just had to walk across the ring and knock him out. He thought there was nothing left. And this is heavyweight boxing. You know, one punch can change everything. And one thing I will say, Rob, there's also one fight in every fighter's career where after that fight, a fighter is never the same again. And don't be surprised that this is that fight for Dillian Whyte.
The interesting thing that you kind of picked up on there about kind of having fights, and not to say that Dillian Whyte was looking past Povetkin at all, but it kind of reminded me of when Tommy Morrison had the deal to sign Lennox Lewis, to fight Lennox Lewis.
Fought who he hired.
He got knocked
100%.
out.
And there was massive money on the table in those days.
Yeah, Michael Bent.
Oh, was it Michael Bent?
Michael Bent stopped him, yeah.
Right. That's right. Yes.
It's a story as old as time in boxing. Finally, before I let you go, we've mentioned the rematch. Let's say, for argument's sake, it goes end of November, start of December. What does Dillian Whyte need to do differently to get the win against Alexander Povetkin, and how do you see that fight going?
Well, I think what he was doing with his jab was very effective and the smart thing to do. I think the most important thing, he has to make sure he doesn't get hit on the chin.
Simple as that.
Mate, I tell you what, no, I think there's going to be a lot more to it. There is going to be, you know, he needs, before he ever steps back into the ring with Alexander Povetkin, he needs to he needs to make sure that mentally he is 100%, that he can put that behind him. He does not want to spend the whole training camp thinking about that one left uppercut. Because, we know Povetkin's a very experienced guy. He's been a proven champion for multiple years, very experienced. And the fact that he can pull off, a huge upset like that at the very end of his career speaks volumes to just how experienced and how clever he is. He's God, since winning the gold medal at the Olympics, he's fought solidly against everyone. And he's got 2 losses. One against Klitschko, where Klitschko was just too big for him, and secondly with Joshua. And we all know that he gave Joshua fits in those early rounds. I was very interested to hear Anthony Joshua say that, hey, this is a bad fight. I think Povetkin could knock him out. I was very impressed for him to call that.
Yeah, good future for him potentially as an analyst. Who knows? I think he's probably got enough money. I don't think he needs to do that. Kev, as always,
I think your job's safe, Rob.
Yeah, well, thanks, mate. Well, everybody seems to be trying to take it. JP's doing videos every 10 minutes.
No, Parker's already told me he wants your job.
Ah, God, we couldn't afford him, mate. I know what those purses he gets are like. Those big purses. But anyway, Kev, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for speaking to Boxing Social. Look forward to hopefully getting over and seeing you before the end of the year. Let's hope and pray, and maybe if I don't speak to you before, which I'm sure I will, best of luck with Guido Vieira's return to the ring and Umar Salomon, and I will speak to you soon, my friend.
Well, listen, let me just tell you this. As I mentioned, Guido's fighting October 3. At the moment, I'm scheduled to leave October 6 for New Zealand. Taylor and myself and my wife going down to run Joe's training camp down there before the junior far fight.
If I want to travel to New Zealand, do I have to quarantine?
Yes, mate, I have to quarantine.
Okay.
And I'm a lot healthier than you.
It's sad but true, yeah. I was just thinking, so I'm desperate to go and see some live boxing. So,
well, mate, please come if you can come. But I know it's at the moment very hard for anyone to get into the country outside of those with New Zealand passports.
Okay. All right. Well, we will see.
But you and I will talk, and I'm sure we'll talk often.
Absolutely. All right, Kev. Well, thanks very much for your time. I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Okay, brother.